viewers. My name is Princess Chatira, a media and society student at Midland State University. My task for today is to interview Mr. Evidence Nzwarika, a Seventh-day Church Adventist member. Say, how are you?
I'm fine, and you?
I'm good. Can you please introduce yourself?
Okay, my name is Evidence Nzwarika. I'm a deacon at the Seventh-day Adventist Church. We worship at Mukoba 6SA Church in Mukoba, and I'm a deacon.
Okay. So say, today I would like to ask you a few issues pertaining the Seventh-day Adventist Church doctrine. So to kickstart, I would like to know, many Adventists, they call themselves the remnant. Can you briefly explain the meaning of the remnant?
Okay, as Seventh-day Adventist Church, we believe we are the remnant church based on the scripture verses from Revelation chapter 14, Revelation chapter 12, verse 7, where maybe I can just give a short explanation of the verse. And Revelation chapter 12 describes about a vision that John saw of a dragon and a woman fighting. And the woman was taken from heaven and he was caught up to God. And then on verse 17 it says, and the dragon was wrath with the woman, and he went on to make war with the remnant of her offspring of her seed. And he began to make war with that remnant. So we believe that this remnant, the characteristics of this remnant, according to verse 17, it says that those who keep the commandments of God and they have the faith of Jesus Christ. So the remnants that John saw are those who keep the commandments of God. And we as Seventh-day Adventist Church, we believe that the remnant, because we keep all the laws that God gave us. So that's what we believe.
Okay, so...
The remnant. And also based on Revelation chapter 14, verse 12, there is from verse 6, if I'm not mistaken, it describes of the three angels' message. And from verse 17, verse 12, 14, verse 12, we also see the remnant also being described as those where the patience of the saints who keep the commandments of God and they have the faith of Jesus Christ. So this is what we believe as Seventh-day Adventists, that the remnant, those, the church of God, the last day church of God, will keep the commandments of God, and there will also be an antitype of the Israelites. So we are the antitype of Israelites. The Israelites kept the commandments of God as God gave Moses at Mount Sinai. So we as the Adventist Church, we keep the commandments of God, and we believe we are the end time church of God. So that's where the remnant comes from.
That's quite...
Because a remnant is a piece of a cloth that is left from the original cloth. So the Israelites, maybe the Old Testament church is the cloth, maybe let me say, is the whole garment, and we are the only a piece of the cloth that of the old church.
Oh, that's quite educative. Okay, so Adventists, you do follow all the 10 commandments, you don't alter anything.
Of course.
So that even goes to your diet.
Yeah, also we believe on our diet that God in Genesis, when God created man, He gave men to eat fruits. In Genesis, we all know that Adam and Eve never ate flesh. So we as Adventists also believe that we have to go back to the original diet that God gave man. And we also, flesh was introduced when all the animals were destroyed by the flood. As we know, I think it's Genesis chapter 11. I am not quite sure on that.
Alright, but in Timothy, I'm not sure which part of Timothy is it. It's Timothy 3, I'm sure. Where they say everything which was created by God is sanctified.
Maybe we need to read that first before I explain. Because what we need to know about the Bible is to understand the context of the verse before we jump to verse. So first of all, we need to know the context of the verse before we describe it. Maybe some people say Paul, when he was shown that vision of a cloth, when he denied to eat the animals that God said, Peter, rise up and eat these animals. And Peter said, no, I can't eat unclean food. And so what God was trying to say today, he was telling Peter to go to the Gentiles. Because in the Old Testament era, Gentiles were not allowed to enter even in the synagogues. So when God said to Paul, rise and eat these animals, I think it was Acts, I can't remember the chapter. He said, rise and eat these animals. So God was saying, this is the time for you to go even to the Gentiles. That's when God revealed the vision to him, he went to Cornelius, if you remember the verse quite sure. But that's what God said. to us. So we believe, as I say, we are the remnant. We are the antitype of the Israel, of the first church that God.
Yeah, it's really quite educational. Okay, sir. I would also want to know about the dances. Do you dance or clap hands when you are worshiping, or let me say when you are praising God in church? Do you dance?
Okay, well, I think my answers will be based on the remnant that you've seen. As I say, we are the antitype of the Old Testament church. Or in dancing in the Old Testament church, we never had, or maybe let me say, we never saw the children of Israel dancing in the church. They were dancing whenever they were dancing. They were dancing outside the church, not in the church. Or even in the early church, we never had the apostles dancing in the church. Yes, dancing, there are verses that say praise God in dancing and instruments, yeah, that we also play instruments. Maybe many people said Adventists don't play instruments. We play instruments, but the type of music that we play is different from that of other churches. Even the type of instruments that we play and the rhythm itself is also different from that of the other churches. Or in the Old Testament, as I said, the children of Israel were dancing outside the temple, not inside the temple. Because we also believe that the church is the sanctuary of God. So in the sanctuary, what was taking place in the sanctuary? Do people dance in the sanctuary? But we believe that there's the inner court, the outer court, and the children of Israel used to go into those services to worship God and to sacrifice their offerings to God, not dancing. And it was serious business when they were worshiping God. They never had time to dance or even clapping hands. Usually when they were dancing on annual festivals. You know, the children of Israel had some festivals that they performed, that God gave them to perform. Maybe they had an annual sacrifice, annual offering to God. That's when they will dance, not in the temple, but outside the temple. So we believe that we don't have to dance in the temple. When we are in the church, we are in the place of worshiping God, not to dance and clapping.
Okay, so allowed to dance like on events like weddings, what was you allowed to dance?
On weddings, we believe that a wedding we can't dance on wedding. Why? Because wedding is part of worship. Wedding is part of worship. When God gave Adam Eve, when Eve was married, maybe let me say to Adam, it was a service that God has to be involved in that service. So we believe that weddings are part of our worship. We are praising God for the union of the two. So it's also part of worship when we are at a wedding.
So you don't consider that phase when Jesus Christ changed the water into wine at the wedding of Cana?
They never danced. They never danced. He changed the water into wine. And that is another topic that we need to discuss when we get time. But the bottom part of it is that they never danced. We never had a verse that say the people danced at that wedding. Yes, he changed the water into wine, but we never had a record of where people danced after he changed the water into wine.
So do you believe in drinking wines at weddings?
We don't drink wine, not even at wedding.
Even outer wine you don't drink?
Yeah, we don't drink wine. Right. Why? Because we believe that our bodies are the temple of the living God, of the Holy Spirit. So everything that defiles that body, even wine, you know what people do when they are drunk. So we don't believe that we as Christians have to be drunk. And also I think a verse in Revelation said, those who drink won't enter heaven. So we don't believe that Christians have to drink wine.
Okay, still on the marriage issue, are you allowed to marry ladies from other churches or other believers?
Okay, according to 2 Corinthians chapter 6 verse 14, it says, do not be equally yoked with unbelievers. Maybe for me to just explain this verse, for example, if I get to marry you, maybe you are not an Adventist, but I think if I marry you, it will be a burden to you, because we as Adventists, we believe that we are to keep the Sabbath holy. We do our preparations on Friday. We cook everything on Friday, and then on Sabbath is the day of worship only. So maybe if you're an Adventist and then I had to marry you and I had to teach you to do all these stuff that we do according to the Bible. It will be difficult for you to do that, and it will be kind of oppressing you, or maybe you can call it abuse. And so that's why as Adventist, it will be difficult for maybe a lady that I will marry, if she's not an Adventist, to understand that. So first she had to understand, and she had to be baptized and believe on what I believe before we met, or maybe even before we date. So when she became an Adventist, then we have a common ground, and then we marry an Adventist.
All right. That's really an educative, controversial discussion. Those who'd like to know more about this, we can still discuss it on my Twitter handle at MissP92. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.